My bill is the Alzheimer's Caregiver Support Act. It was introduced on March 12, 2019 by Senator Amy Klobuchar. It only has one co-sponsor, Senator Susan Collins. It is currently sitting in the Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pension, and if it is passed, it will become a federal law. The goal of the Alzheimer's Caregiver Support Act is to provide grants for training and support services for families and caregivers of people living with Alzheimer's disease or a related dementia. It proposes to provide the grants to public and nonprofit healthcare providers such as skilled nursing facilities, senior centers, and healthcare organizations. It will also provide greater support for families and caregivers, and it will also improve caregiver health. The Alzheimer's Caregiver Support Act was originally introduced on February 6, 2017 as S311 to the 114th Congress by Senator Amy Klobuchar. It made it to the Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pension. On June 21, 2017, Representative Maxine Waters introduced the bill as H.R. 2972 to the 115th Congress. This bill had 74 co-sponsors and made it to the House Committee on Energy and Commerce and the Subcommittee on Health. We are now on the S-740, introduced by Amy Klobuchar on March 12, 2019, and all three forms of this bill have been exactly the same. Formal actors are involved in public policy because their responsibilities are sanctioned by law or the Constitution, and therefore they have to enforce the policies. The major formal actors of this bill are Amy Klobuchar, Susan Collins, Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, Senate, the House of Representatives, and Donald Trump. Informal actors play a role in the policy process without any legal authority because they have a deep interest in passing this bill. The informal actors are the Alzheimer's Association, the Alzheimer's Impact Movement, AOTA, OT students, caregivers, and Alzheimer's patients. The model chosen for this bill is the incrementation model. People have been aware of Alzheimer's for many years. There are many Alzheimer's bills and movements that have either been passed or have attempted to be passed in prior years. These bills and movements provide key sources of information regarding what we know about Alzheimer's. The 2019 Alzheimer's Caregiver Support Act is another small movement trying to help the cause by branching off already existing information. There are many obstacles standing in the way of the Alzheimer's Caregiver Support Act being passed. The first one is the financial concerns. The senator that I spoke with was concerned about how the bill does not say where the money is coming from to supply these grants to organizations. It also does not say how much money each organization gets. Another obstacle is co-sponsors. Right now, S-740 only has one co-sponsor. H.R. 2972 had 74 co-sponsors and made it the farthest point so far. There might be a lack of co-sponsors due to the financial concerns. Another obstacle is from that there is no reimbursement codes relating to treating caregivers. So a lot of healthcare providers are concerned if they are or how they are going to get paid for training these caregivers. Some strategies to help these obstacles are to advocate. Every day people are advocating for Alzheimer's patients, but every day we need to advocate for their caregivers as well, and this act does both. The Alzheimer's Impact Movement is another great place to put this bill onto their webpage. They are a webpage that has a bunch of bills and movements and concerns, and they just advocate for all of it right there. There are many forces acting on the development of S-740. The first one is social. There are currently more than 5 million Americans living with Alzheimer's and 16 million caregivers experience substantial emotional, financial, and physical difficulties from caring for their loved ones. It is predicted that by 2050 that 14 million Americans will be living with Alzheimer's. This is a social factor because almost everyone in America is affected by these statistics. The economic factor is that it is providing grants to support trainings to organizations. This money needs to be gathered from somewhere to be able to cover what the bill is proposing. Politically, some politicians are concerned with the fact of how the money will be provided to these public and nonprofit organizations. Culturally, almost everyone knows someone who has or had Alzheimer's or someone who has dealt with a loved one suffering from it. The Alzheimer's Caregiver Support Act has taken into consideration individuals' cultures and has mandated that grants can only be provided to organizations if they provide services in the language most appropriate and considers a patient's cultural background. The professional factor acting on S740 is that occupational therapists like the idea of this bill because they are concerned with the quality of life of their patients and their caregivers as a whole. The only reason OTs would not support S740 is because there is no reimbursement code for treating the caregivers. Other aspects to consider when looking into this bill are the important possible outcomes, alternative potential policies, and important effective values that are being neglected. The important possible outcomes being neglected are that S740 has the potential to delay long-term care facility admissions if caregivers knew how to provide the proper care to their loved ones. It can also lower the overall healthcare costs for caregiver health when they are not overworked by providing this care. The alternative potential policies that are being neglected are the opportunity to provide reimbursement to healthcare providers for training and providing support to the caregivers. Important effective values that are being neglected without passing S740 are caregiver burnout and that Alzheimer's patients are not being provided with the appropriate quality of care. The Alzheimer's Caregiver Support Act does not directly correlate with occupational therapy. OTs should be concerned with the bill, though, because we work with patients alongside their caregivers every day, and we're always looking to improve their quality of health together as a whole. What OTs can do is advocate for Alzheimer's patients and their caregivers. This could generally be to inform the general public about what Alzheimer's is and what caregiver burnout is, or we can be advocating for this bill specifically. OTs are aware of caregiver burnout and we have learned much about it, and we also address it a lot, usually in home health, but we can address it in skilled nursing facilities and everywhere else too. If it is passed, OTs are very capable of providing this training and support services to the caregivers. The only concern is that there are no reimbursement codes to provide the training for these caregivers yet. But no matter what, the most important thing is to provide proper quality of care to Alzheimer's and dementia patients and increase the support and quality of life to caregivers as well. And these are my references. Thank you.